Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in a resourceful feeling of relaxation. And as you exhale, just get a sense that tension, stress, anxiety is leaving your body in your outward breath. As you breathe in and breathe out, as you next exhale, notice that with your eyes closed, you're able to relax even deeper, enabling you to go deeper and deeper, relaxed. Use the power of your imagination to imagine a vibrant color that represents resourceful relaxation. Imagine as you breathe in, it goes in through your nose and fills your lungs with that feeling of relaxing resourcefulness. And as you exhale, just get a sense that anything undesirable, anything unuseful is leaving your body in your outward breath. And maybe that's tension. Maybe that's stress. Maybe that's worries. Maybe it's just thoughts and beliefs that you've had in your past that aren't serving you currently. And therefore, as you breathe in and breathe out, notice just how good it feels for you to let go of that tension, enabling your muscles around your eyes to relax. Muscles in your forehead can just be released. And as your body relaxes, your imagination becomes more vivid, more real. And sometimes we think of our imagination as things that aren't possible or can't happen, but memories are like imagination. Each time we go back to a memory, we're viewing it and recording it at exactly the same time. And I want you to remember a time where you were on a beach in Mexico. Imagine how good you felt. Perhaps you can imagine the feeling of the warm sand under your feet. Maybe a gentle breeze, maybe hearing the waves breaking on the shore. I want you to get a sense that the warmth that you can feel from the sun is melting away any feelings of tension that you have. And in doing so, you are able to go deeper and deeper, relaxed. I want you to imagine there is the most comfortable looking bed that you've ever seen. There on that beach, there in Mexico. And for some reason, that beach is completely empty. You're the only one on the beach. And I want you to imagine making yourself comfortable on that bed, allowing your arms and legs to just completely relax. I want you to get a sense that any tension in your neck is just melting away. Imagine placing your head on a pillow, and as you breathe in and breathe out, just getting a sense that you're going so deeply relaxed that you're able to truly let go. In fact, I'm going to count down from 5 to 1, and you will imagine what it would be like to fall asleep there on that imaginary bed, there on a private beach, there in Mexico with the sun shining on your skin. Starting to count 5, just eyelids getting heavier and heavier. Releasing that tension. 4. Any tension in your neck, shoulders, arms, just breathe in that resourceful feeling of relaxation, and then as you exhale, let that tension go. 3, any tension in your legs, all the way down to your toes, just notice the tension and release that tension in your next outward breath. And then 2, as you breathe in, imagine that your internal organs are also relaxing. That's right. And then 1, just imagine that as your whole body relaxes, you imagine what it would feel like. What it would feel like to fall asleep on that bed, on that beach, in that memory, and then start to dream. And I want you to imagine dreaming. I want you to imagine dreaming of a kitchen. And I want you to imagine one day in that kitchen, you see a single cockroach. Some people believe that they get what they deserve in life. And other people believe that you get what you tolerate in life. And I want you to imagine seeing a single cockroach in that kitchen. But instead of removing the cockroach, and in fact, instead of even ignoring the cockroach, I want you to imagine that you start to feed that cockroach. Maybe you're feeding it chips, chocolate, a piece of bread, a cookie, and notice that this cockroach does not care, is not fussy. I want you to get a sense that that cockroach feeds frantically on that food. And then notice, it feels like it's the next day. And guess what? The cockroach is back. The cockroach is back because it was rewarded for being there. Only this time there's a second cockroach. The first cockroach has told a friend that there is food available. And bizarrely, I want you to imagine what it would be like, again, to not just tolerate the cockroach, but to reward the cockroach by feeding it with even more of this snacky food. I guaranteed if you put something healthy there, like a lettuce leaf or a piece of cucumber, and also put cookies and chips, I think you know what the cockroaches would be frantically feeding on most. It's the next day, and now there's 4 cockroaches. They seem to be doubling every day. Bizarrely, notice the clock is about 8 p.m., 9 p.m. And you find yourself feeding the cockroaches even more of that snacks. It's the next day. Now there are 8 cockroaches. Every evening, the cockroaches come out. And you keep wondering, why am I feeding these cockroaches? And notice the more you feed them, the more persistent they get. And if you attempted to feed them less, they would start hissing and clicking, getting aggressive to ensure that they get what it is that they want. Notice that they don't care about nutrition. They don't care about the quality of the food. They don't care if it's in date or out of date. They're not looking at the ingredients. If it looks like food that can just give a sense of gratification, that's what they want. It's the next day, and there are 16 cockroaches. There in the evening, you can see the clock again. It's maybe 8 p.m., 9 p.m., maybe even 10 p.m. And there are 16 cockroaches all crawling around. And bizarrely, you find yourself feeding them again. All it would take for the cockroaches to reduce is for you to decide that you're not going to reward them. You're not going to keep feeding them. But bizarrely, you keep doing it. And as you start to feed these 16 cockroaches, I want you to imagine that you slip on the kitchen floor. Imagine you're holding maybe a bag of chips and they all fly up in the air and then land on you. And for some reason, you're frozen. You can't move your hands, your legs. The chips are scattered all over your body. And I want you to get a sense of how you would feel if 16 cockroaches were crawling over your skin, not feeding on you, but feeding on the food that is touching you, crawling on you. You can hear them, maybe getting aggressive and fighting with each other, squabbling over that food while it's on you. You can hear the hissing, the clicking. More importantly, you can feel the texture of their spiky little legs going over your arms and legs and your skin. And I want it to reach a point where you feel enough is enough. You're not willing to tolerate these cockroaches anymore. And at the point where you feel that you're not willing to accept them anymore, then you're ready to make a change. And the key change is that these cockroaches were never real cockroaches. These cockroaches represented the greedy, scavenging, instant gratification part of you. And for years, you've been feeding that part, often in the evenings, rewarding that part. Perhaps qualities you don't even like about yourself. There's a part of you which is discerning, that likes quality. And yet, many an evening you've been scavenging for food. And each time you've been scavenging for food and you've found food and been willing to eat that food, you've been growing that part within you that is willing to tolerate poor quality food. I want you to get a sense that you can continue to do this. But I want you to get a sense of, by continuing to feed that inner cockroach, you're depriving yourself of true joy and true enjoyment and pleasure in food. I want you to imagine you're leaving that kitchen and imagine that you're now in your own home. I want you to imagine that you've had a nice lunch, a nice evening meal, and you're back in your home and maybe you are bored. And I want you to start imagining that you're opening a fridge door. You're having a look around the pantry. You're opening cupboards and seeing what's there. And I want you to feel that this isn't you. This is your inner cockroach. This is the part of you that likes to scavenge, that isn't interested in quality, it just wants instant gratification. I want you to get a sense that you can reward this part. You can feed this part just as you imagined feeding the cockroaches in the kitchen. The more you fed it, the more they became, and the more tenacious and aggressive they became. Or you can starve that inner cockroach, because that inner cockroach doesn't want to be a cockroach. The cockroach is pleasure seeking, but this is not pleasure. You already know that within your life, your most pleasurable experiences with food were occasions, things that you made an effort for, places where you enjoyed the surroundings or the company, the quality of the food and how it was presented. I want you to get a sense that as that inner cockroach disappears, the part of you that really enjoys mindfully eating delicious foods starts to grow. Your standards increase, and you'll know what represents true pleasure, because you'll enjoy it in the moment and you'll enjoy it whenever you think about it. I want you to get a sense that you already know the difference between that scavenging for food and consciously, mindfully eating a delicious meal. And I want you to make a decision. Deep down, are you the kind of person that really wants to enjoy food in a discerning, elegant, mindful, enjoyable way, or will you allow the cockroach to win? I want you to get a sense that perhaps the reason that you have this dislike of this scavenging, creepy animal is perhaps because it reminds you of a part of you that you'd rather wasn't there. If there were cockroaches in your house, you would know what to do to eliminate them. And the way you eliminate that scavenging behavior in your own life is just to see it for what it is. Poor quality decisions from a part of you that you can phase out. In that kitchen, you would not starve the cockroaches, or you would not feed the cockroaches, and by starving them, they would get less and less, and that's exactly how you will do it in your own life. And when you're ready to make that decision, to starve that cockroach, then realize that you're not missing out on any pleasure. You're just transferring the pleasure from that snacking to make those enjoyable meals that you eat even more enjoyable. I want you to imagine yourself as the most elegant, discerning version of you, looking slim, looking confident. And imagine that version of you, perhaps just a meter in front of you. And then imagine the version of you with low standards, the version of you that is not discerning at all. Imagine a version of you that doesn't have confidence, doesn't have discipline, is willing to scavenge and eat whatever's around. And you know that cockroaches will eat food even if it's in the garbage. They're not discerning at all. And I want you to see another version of you that lacks any discernment, any standards. But interestingly, I want you to imagine that version of you with tentacles coming out of your head, and to start to see your body morph so you're starting to look like a cockroach. And now it's time to step into the identity that you truly are. The discerning, elegant version of you with high standards, or the scavenging cockroach version of you. I'll count down from 5 to 1 and you will step into who you are at your identity. Starting to count 5, 4, 3, stepping into the version of you truly are. 2 and 1, and realize that the other version of you starts to fade away and will only come back if you make choices aligned with that other version of you. It's now time to leave this place in your imagination. Find yourself back there on that bed, there on Mexico, waking up from a bizarre dream where you imagined yourself feeding cockroaches every evening. Imagined what it would be for you to even be a cockroach. And to realize that you woke up choosing a very different version of you. And all of this is just thoughts within thoughts. Ideas within ideas. Dreams within dreams. And now it's time to return to the present. But you return to the present with a new way of thinking about yourself and your behavior. You will no longer reward the cockroach part of you. You will reward the elegant version of you, your inner royalty, rather than your inner cockroach. In a few moments' time, I will count from 1 to 10 to awaken you, and you will awaken feeling optimistic, resourceful, with a new way of thinking, knowing that you get to make the choices, and you can strengthen a part of your character or weaken a part of your character by the choices that you make. And one of the key clues of making good decisions is whether or not you feel regret. And the value of regret is to shape future decisions and behavior, to have a life of more genuine joy, enjoyment, and true pleasure, not the illusion of pleasure, which is just short-term gratification. Take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Just wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes. Get a sense that you're in your own physical body right now in the present, all parts fully aligned. But more importantly, you will awaken with a sense of who you really are, with higher standards, eager and willing to phase out that scavenging part of your character, starting to count to awaken you. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake.